Hello, YouTube land. This is Brenton Sawin coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. If anyone out there has a story they would like to share on this show, you can go to brentonsawin@gmail.com and submit your story there, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you want to contribute to help with this show, you can go to a link in the description, PayPal me, and I appreciate everyone who has made a contribution. It is very, very helpful at this time with YouTube. And let's see here. I have an advertiser that I picked up, so I'm going to let you hear a little clip from that. I picked up an advertiser, and that helps out some, that's for sure. And this fella emailed me, and he has a company called stocksathome.com. I went and checked it out. Basically, in a nutshell, we'll kind of cover this in a little bit on this video and in the next video, and I'll do a little at a time. But he started trading stocks as soon as he got out of high school, and he was pretty good at it, and he was sharing some of the information on Twitter and things like that, and he noticed he started getting a following, and he's got like 70,000 something followers now, but they were wanting to know more because he was doing so good on trading stocks. So he started a website where you can join it, and this is the website here. You can join it, and he gives you when he buys, when he sells, all the details, so you can do exactly what he's doing. And I'll show you down here in a second. There's also testimonials here, people who follow him and trade, and some of them are full-time traders now. But you can go through and look at, like, June 2017, his ratio of increase was like 40.5%. May was 42.9, and on and on and on. Some months, are down to like 29.5, but that's a heck of a return. 17.9, that's still a good return. Even when the stock market dropped 1,200 points yesterday, he still had for that day a 3% increase. And that's really good. That'd add up over a month. So basically, $25 a month, you join his site and do what he does. And he tells you when to do it. He'll tweet out you need to join him on Twitter too, but he'll tweet out to you to sell this, sell that, or if something's dropping, he sells early so it minimizes the losses, and he holds on to the stuff that's gaining, and that's how you get a decent percentage. I'll leave a link in the description. Go check him out. We'll talk more about this in the future. We're back, and today we have Alfred back. Alfred has got some Bigfoot stuff he's going to share today. Last time he shared some mantid and some other types of cryptids that were coming out of the woods in this neighborhood, and it was very, very interesting kind of stuff, that's for sure. I love that really strange kind of cryptid creatures, it's like, man, what the heck was that, so that was a really fun show. If you haven't seen it, go back to the last video and check that out, and Alfred really, really told it very, very well. But anyway, let's just go to our guest, Alfred. And if you would, buddy, give yourself an introduction again, in case someone hasn't heard the last show, and then we'll get into your stories.
Okay, thank you, Brenton. My name is Alfred Auriga. I'm the founder of the Bronxville Paranormal Society. You can check us out on Facebook. We have a website. We're on YouTube. And, we're just a paranormal team that investigates everything and anything. But it seems to me that I have a special connection with the Sasquatch community. In 1974, I was 12 years old. I was down in South Florida visiting my sister for the summer. with my cousin Anthony. He was like an older brother to me. He was like 15. And my parents and his parents would always send us down there for the summer. It was like our summer camp, our version of summer camp. And my brother-in-law, Joe, he was an ex-Marine and had an Italian restaurant down in a little town called Davie, Florida, down in South Florida. It's just outside off of the Everglades. And so we would go down there, and Joe would put us to work, and we'd work in the first half of the day. In the second half of the day, we'd take our dirt bikes out riding in the swamp or horseback riding or whatever. But that particular summer, there was a lot of fires in the swamps that year. It was a drought in South Florida, and there was a lot of Sasquatch, or what they call skunk apes down there, sightings in South Florida. So one night, my cousin and I were hanging out late, and, my sister had 2 huge German Shepherds, and the dogs started going ballistic, and we heard, we smelled a really bad smell. We didn't know what was going on. I put the dogs in the garage because I didn't want them to wake up the whole family. And then the next day, when my sister and my brother-in-law woke up, we told them, we said, we were up like 3 o'clock in the morning watching the Don Kirsh's rock concert or something back in the day. And we told them about the smell. And my brother-in-law said, oh, that's the skunk ape. And, we thought, being kids from New York City, we thought they were just pulling our legs. We really didn't believe it. And so when we went out in the second half of the day, when it got too hot to work outside, and we hung out with the other guys from the neighborhood, we asked them about it. And they were like, yeah, this time of year. And it was early July, I think, right around July 4th or so. So the skunk ape comes around every time this time of year. It's no big deal. These guys didn't seem like it was a big deal, like it was a common occurrence, And my cousin and I just, we couldn't wrap our minds around it because, we're talking about, a Bigfoot type creature that we just thought, existed in the Pacific Northwest. So one night we're sitting at the house, and we're hanging out, and I'm laying on the bed. My sister had this sunroom, and we were sleeping on a pull-out king-size bed. Couch, and had a big picture window, and the house was surrounded by a fence on 3 sides. 6-foot fence went all the way around, but the front of the house was open. There was a fountain in the front with a circular driveway, and that's where the big picture window was, where we were sleeping. And my cousin and I had just laid down to go to sleep when we seen the sensor lights go on in the front, and we seen this huge shadow go across the wall in front of us. So again, the dogs, started to go crazy. And again, I got up and I put the dogs in the garage so they won't wake the whole neighborhood up, the whole household. And I jumped down on the floor and I crawled over to the picture window and I peeked out of the bottom of the picture window because I didn't know what the hell was out there, because whatever was out there looked like it was a monster. And when I opened up the picture window, I seen this, well, for lack of a better definition, a 9-foot Sasquatch, but it had like a reddish tint to its hair. It was dark in the front, but the sensor lights were on, so the sensor lights were hitting it from both angles, and its eyes were lit up red. And I don't know if that's from the lights themselves, a reflection of the lights, but this thing, is looking into the picture window, and I think it's looking at me, and then it does this like Arnold Schwarzenegger scream, like a flexing kind of motion, like Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk, right? And it screams this blood-curdling scream that just knocked me back. And I thought the thing was looking at me, but in hindsight, it probably seen its reflection in the glass and thought it was another male and was like, dominant territory type of deal. And I jumped back and I crawled across the floor like an army man. My cousin was laying in bed, just freaked out, and he just went totally numb. He couldn't move. He was like frozen solid. And we seen the thing go around the right side of the house. And on the right side were the kids' bedrooms, but there was a bathroom in between them both. So I grabbed my cousin. I said, come on, let's go check this out. And we ran into the bathroom. We left the lights off. Sister's windows were tinted. She had a black screen on top of that. But that's where I actually got a good idea of how big the creature was, because I knew the fence was 6 foot all the way around the house, and this creature was head and shoulders above the fence. So I'm assuming it was a minimum of 9 feet tall, 900 pounds, and we had a wild watermelon patch right next to the house on the side. It squatted down, and the whole time it was walking along the fence line, it was looking at us like it could see us through the window. And we were like ducking down behind the window, below the window, because, you know, we couldn't figure out how the thing was seeing us because we didn't have the lights on or anything. And it squatted down and grabbed the wild watermelon, and in one giant bite, it just basically devoured the whole watermelon. And then it walked onto the back of the property. And again, we ran out to the back patio. Again, we left the lights off. It was a screened-in patio. But as the creature came around the back of the house, the sensor lights went on, and we could see it walking down along the fence line. At the end of our property, the guy behind our house had a man-made lake. The creature squatted down, again, never taking its eyes off us, like he was watching us the whole time we were watching him. And he squatted down and scooped up some water, and then he just got up and he walked off into the swamps where we used to go ride our dirt bikes, and we used to have bonfires in there and hang out there at night. And, you know, that was like the first night we actually ever got to see this thing up close and personal. And my cousin and I, we were like, man, what did we get into? Why did we come to Florida to get killed by some kind of, you know, King Kong kind of creature? You know, it's just mind-boggling. When you see this thing literally 8-10 feet in front of you, your mind can't comprehend what your eyes are seeing. It's just mind-boggling. So that was like the second night. That was the first night we actually laid eyes on it. And a few nights went went by, and you could hear the creature screaming in the swamp. So where my sister lived, if you go to the BFRO, there's a link in there of my story, and they got it all mapped out. Forgot the name of the Sunset Acres or something like that, I think it was called. It's a giant square surrounded by swamp, and it was like a 4-mile square with all these houses built in the middle of it. And it was really underdeveloped at the time. There was only a few houses back there. And so one night we're all hanging out, and all of a sudden we hear gunshots coming from down the street from the ranch. There was a horse rancher who lived down the street from us who did tours in the swamps, and we would work for him some days, you know, shoveling hay or taking tours out if he didn't have anybody, because the horses knew where they were going. We would just go for the ride. And he had this one horse that, I don't know if it was like a stallion or a Mustang or whatever it was, that he had just gotten from like Wyoming or Montana. And he couldn't keep it in the barn with the other horses because it would kick, and it made all the other horses nervous. So he kept it out in the corral, and he had a Native American, I believe it was like a Seminole Indian, would come every day to try to break this horse. But while this horse was out in the corral, this creature snuck up on this horse and grabbed it on its hind quarters. And the horse kicked out and jumped the corral and ran into the pasture. And when the horse kicked out, the rancher came out. He heard the commotion, and he started shooting at the creature. And then once the horse got into the pasture, there was no way the creature was going to catch it. And we came out, and we heard the gunshots. And, you know, we knew the kids who lived in that house, so we jumped on our dirt bikes, and we raced over to see what was going on. And they called the sheriff and the whole 9 yards. And they don't know if you hit the creature or not, but we did see the creature running down the street towards the swamp, heading towards the swamp. And the following day, the Native American came there to get the horse because he was so spooked he wouldn't come out of the pasture. And when he brought the horse back to the corral, the horse had fingerprints on its hindquarters. Not scratches. They were not scratches. They were fingerprints. Like if someone grabs you by your forearm and squeezes really hard and leaves that impression, that's what the horse had on its hindquarters. And we were just blown away that, you know, something that big that could creep up on a wild Mustang like that. Just, we didn't think it was possible because this horse was just so, anything spooked it. So then a few nights go by and, you know, settling down, and my brother-in-law and my sister were entertaining friends from New York. They were down in Miami, and we were babysitting the kids, me and my cousin Anthony. And later that evening, they got home. It was around, I guess, 1-ish, 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And, you know, they were pulling into the driveway. And at that point, the sheriff had started picking up his patrol in the area. They would come out, the sheriff and the deputy, and they would, you know, one would go one way, one would go the other, and crisscross the neighborhoods and the streets just to kind of keep everybody, you know, calm. But like I said, there was a lot of reports that summer in the newspapers from all the towns all around us. I mean, they were seen everywhere. There was news reports. There was, you know, newspaper articles. So one night there was a cattle rancher who lived down the street from us, and he had this big white Brahma bull with this big hump in its back. And his bull was a monster. Okay, this bull was a monster. If he was 2,500 pounds, he was an ounce. This bull was big. Well, one night, his property actually went right up against one of the canals that came in from the Everglades. And one night we were all hanging out, and my brother-in-law and sister are just getting home, and the dogs, you know, meeting them at the front door. And we open up the front door when we hear this most horriblest, blood-curdling scream you ever heard in your life. Nobody knew what it was, but it was terrifying. And then you heard the cattle rancher's shotgun going off. Boom, boom, boom. So my brother-in-law said, jump in the car. Let's go see what's going on. So my cousin Anthony jumped in the front seat. He was riding shotgun. I was hanging out the moonroof of the back of my brother-in-law's Lincoln, and we're racing down the street. And as we come to the corner, the deputy is in front of us. He's going really slow, and he's got his lights on, that spotlight. He's looking to his left towards the swamp, and you can see the sheriff's car, you know, because everything is so flat down Florida. You can see the sheriff's car like a mile away, whatever, a couple miles away, coming around the far corner when this creature came out of the darkness on the right-hand side. And the deputy hit the creature. And when the deputy hit the creature, his car stopped like he hit a telephone pole. That car just stopped dead. Creature fell down, fell on some sign, flattened this sign, like a pancake this sign, like a school sign or something. And then the creature got up and limped over to the deputy sheriff's car. And with this pissed off look in its eyes, he screamed and he punched the front of that police car with both of his hands like a hammer punch. And when he hit that car, the back end came off the ground. And I'm sitting outside the sunroof seeing this. You know, and this police car is 4 feet in front of us, and my brother-in-law's got the high beams on this creature. So, you know, the creature is 10 feet in front of the car. And the deputy was just frozen. He just didn't know what to do. And then the creature limped off into the swamp. And by that time, the sheriff had come around, and the sheriff took, you know, asked the deputy what happened. He said, why didn't you shoot him with the shotgun? And the deputy was like, nah, that thing was too big. You know, you couldn't shoot him with the shotgun. And the sheriff was like, well, why didn't you go after him in the swamp? And the deputy's like, I'm not going in that swamp after that thing. And he took our statements, and, you know, we were given statements basically telling the sheriff exactly what the deputy was saying, you know, validating what the deputy was saying as far as the accident and everything. And then the cattle rancher came racing around the corner in his pickup truck, and he's screaming, look what that damn beast did to my prize bull. And I'm thinking, I used to jog those 4 miles every day. I ran past that bull every day. And I'm thinking, what the hell could this thing have done to that bull? That bull was a monster. So we follow the sheriff and the cattle rancher back to his pasture. And the sheriff puts the spotlight on the pasture, like the one he has on the side of the car. And there's the bull, torso bleeding out with no head. And, you know, the sheriff is panning the pasture, and 100 yards away on the other side of the pasture is the bull's head. And I'm thinking, how in God's green earth did this creature kill this bull? It's just mind-boggling. I mean, I didn't think anything could take this bull down. Never mind, you know, this a skunk ape, because I had never heard of a skunk ape before. I've heard of Patty, but I never heard of a skunk ape. And we looked at it, and then that night, the county police came in and the staties came in, and they went into the swamp with helicopters and horses and dogs, and they searched that swamp high and low, and they never found that creature. And the swamp was pretty strange to begin with, because where we used to hang out down at the end of the swamp, the local kids called it the turnaround. And they said the water would come in and turn around, and you could swim in the turnaround. And I thought that these guys were out of their minds, because there was tons of gators in the swamp. And these guys said, no, the gators don't come into the turnaround. I'm like, what are you talking about, the gators? There's fish in here, there's frogs in here, there's turtles in here. Why wouldn't the gators come in there? They said they just don't come into the turnaround. And then kids used to go swimming in there. I mean, I never went in, but kids. So one day I'm fishing at the turnaround, and a gator is sunning himself. He's floating in, and he floats into the turnaround. And when this gator woke up and seen where it was, his eyes almost popped out of his head. He basically ran on the top of the water to get out of the turnaround. And I'm like, what the hell is in this turnaround that would scare this gator that much, that they don't come in here? And one of my friends, one of the local kids, he was a rebel, man. He was a wild kid. And he said to me, he believed that there was some kind of den or something like that was in the high grass that led to these creatures' den. And he believed that there was, they were in there somewhere. So one day he's swimming through the high grass and this, that, and the other thing, and he finds an opening, and he says to me, he says, listen, I'm going to go swim down this thing, this cavern. If I don't come back in like 20 minutes, go get my brothers, And I was like, dude, don't go into that cavern. Don't go into that cavern. And he's like, no, I'm going to go in this cavern. And he said he swam down this cavern. And when he got to the end of the cavern, he came up out of the water. He was underneath some kind of like an underground cave system. And he said that there was like these archways, for lack of a better definition, that he believed that these skunk apes were using as dens. And he said it stunk really bad, and it burnt his eyes, and it left a bad taste in his mouth. And when he came out of that cavern, he was bouncing off the wall. He was going 100 miles an hour. He was begging me to go in there with him. He was begging me to come and see this. And I was like, dude, you're out of your mind. Because just think about if your father came home and found some stranger in his house, he's going to shoot him. What do you think these creatures are going to do to you if we pop up out of the water and they're standing there? They're going to rip us to shreds, and no one's ever going to find us. And then he swore me to secrecy. He said, you can never tell anybody about this underground cavern, because if you do, the sheriff and the stadies are going to come in here, and they're going to blow this up, and they're going to, crush all these creatures. And I was like, listen, man, I'm not going to tell anybody. I promise you, it's you, me and you, we'll take it to the grave. And, and I never told my cousin, and he never told his brothers. And like 40 years went by before I even started speaking about this incident again. And the only reason I did was because my brother was writing a book called Paranormal Family and Friends. And he wanted to use the story in his book, and that just jogged my memory. And then he validated my story with my sister. Unfortunately, my brother-in-law and my cousin had passed by then. And so, I don't know. I never seen the den. I wouldn't go into the caverns. I wouldn't go into the swamp. I mean, I believe this kid. I believed him that day when he told me he found something. I believed him. I don't think he was bullshitting me any way, shape, or form, because he was just bouncing off the walls. And like I said, when we came back to New York, my cousin said to me, he said, dude, he said, you can never tell anybody what happened. And I was like, what are you talking about? First person I'm going to tell is my brother. He's a paranormal investigator. He's like, no, you can never tell anybody what happened, because if you do, people are going to think we're crazy and we're nuts, and no one's going to ever take us serious. You know, we're going to be labeled as, you know, fruitcakes and stuff like that. So I said, okay. So I never told my brother, because I knew if I told my brother, he would have asked my aunt, and then my cousin would have found out about it. My cousin would have kicked my ass. So, but I did tell, like, my two best friends, and, you know, we just kept it between us. And like I said, then I just, you know, time went on and I forgot about it. And that's the Skunk Ape Incident from Florida.
That's amazing, dude. I mean, there's a lot of folklore about Bigfoot living in, basically, they would get into the river and go into caves that were under the banks and stuff like that. I guess you've heard of that kind of stuff, right?
Well, I heard of it that day when my friend told me he was going to look for, you know, something in the high grass along the banks of the canals, you know. But I told him, I said, dude, the only thing you're going to find is an alligator den, and you're going to get eaten. But this dude was a wild dude. He would swim with the alligators, you know.
Well, even when there isn't any alligators, there are stories about the Bigfoot going into, like, rivers, and then going into basically, I mean, for lack of a better term, going into caves that are under the water in the banks of the rivers. So they were thought to have lived in the rivers and caves.
That makes sense to me. I mean, every time these creatures ran off into the swamp, they always disappeared once they went into the water. No one was ever able to find them. The dogs weren't able to track them. And, you know, the helicopters with the spotlights never could find them. And, you know, they were in there with, you know, dogs and horses and everything else. And these things, once they get into those swamps, they just disappear. So, I mean, it would just make sense.
They probably don't all live like that, but, you know, there might be some that do. You know, there might be some that live up in the mountains. There might be some that live in caves that are up on the mountain or whatever. But then when you're talking about these crevices and stuff like that are in the rivers, that's a perfect hiding place. I mean, it keeps you concealed. You know, jump in the water and you go into a cave. It's under the water in the river. I've heard that many times, actually.
Wow!
They would jump in the river and then they would disappear. And through a lot of the Native American stories that I've heard, talked about them, you know, jumping in the river, and they would go into subterranean areas that were underground in the river, and you know, and I've had other kind of stories about subterranean species and stuff like that lived in caves, and even talked about some stuff in the Bible that talked about those who dug themselves into the earth to escape judgment, and, you know, like the flood and stuff like that, you know, when that happened.
Well, I think it's a perfect hiding place for them, you know what I mean? No one knows the caves are there. Like you said, they're subterranean, they're underwater. And in South Florida, I mean, Florida itself is basically, you know, underwater. So once you get into those swamps and that high grass.
And you think about it, too, if you were to flood the earth, and if you have an area that you can go to that is already underwater, but you can have air and stuff like that to breathe, then you can survive a flood. The Bible says that the flood killed all the creatures on the face of the earth. But it also says in Genesis 6 there was Nephilim in the land in those days and also after that. Because I hear some people try to say, oh, you know, all the Nephilim were killed during the flood. So there's no, you know. But no, it says they were there and after that also. So, you know, you take, like, for instance, in New Orleans, when the flood hit there from the hurricane, and it flooded it for like 2 weeks. And when the water receded, there were ants that came back out of the ground that went into their ant hills, and went underground, and it's done in such a way that it doesn't flood the whole of the ant, the subterranean chambers that they have. You take plumbing in a house, unless you have a vent on your plumbing, the plumbing won't drain. It's kind of like taking a straw and sticking it into a glass, and you put your finger over the end and you pull the straw up. It'll hold water, Let your finger off of it, and the water will drain out. So you can make something that's underwater, and if you make it in the right way, it'll stay to where most of it has air.
And dry, absolutely,
what I'm saying? It's kind of a physics thing, and so that's very interesting. I would love to know more about what that guy knew.
Yeah, I mean that whole development now is all built up, and the swamp where we used to do the horseback riding and ride our dirt bikes, it's all houses now. I think, as a matter of fact, they may have even drained that swamp to build more homes up there. But back in 1974, it was still very rural, South Florida, especially Davie, the town of Davie. I mean, the biggest thing that came in Davie was the rodeo on the 4th of July. You know what I mean? That was the biggest thing. And I mean, they still had chain gangs back then cutting the grass on the side of the swamps, so it was deep South back then. You know what I'm saying? It's not like today. So it was wilderness, and like when the woman from the BFRO who interviewed me for the
that dude was brave. That guy was brave to go in that. Oh my gosh,
that dude was sick.
Oh man, you gotta be. That dude had balls of steel, dude. I mean, it's like crazy.
You're talking about a 12-year-old kid. He was my age. We were 12 years old.
To dive under the water and go into the Bigfoot chamber. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, that's like a tough, brave dude for real.
Yeah, he was a real rebel, man. He was no joke. I mean, I thought I was a tough kid from the city. This dude would go swimming in the Everglades with water moccasins and
trusting that there's not going to be any gators. Screw that, man. I ain't gonna go by folklore. Gators don't come up in here. Screw that. Maybe they will.
I can't tell you.
They won't.
I can't tell you. I can't tell you how many times I've seen him dive right in where there was 4 or 5 gators in the water. You know what I mean? And swim like in between them. And these gators would just like look at him like he was nuts. They never bothered him. He had a gift, man. The animals just left him alone. He was like Tarzan. I'll be honest with you.
That's crazy, dude.
He was a crazy dude. I love the guy.
Props, man. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he had more balls than me.
You're a brave dude. You're a tough hombre.
Man, I would have rather walked down a dark alleyway in the Bronx by myself than to go into that water with those alligators, So, to each his own. He was a nature boy. He was 12 years old. The kid was amazing. He used to fix like everybody's tractors in the neighborhood and stuff like that. He could fix motors.
Did you ever think for a minute that maybe that you might try to go in?
Hell no. There was no way on God's green earth he was getting me to go in that water. There's just no way. I mean,
just
I wouldn't go in
the
the
interest
water.
in the caves. I mean, it's like, okay, there's some caves under here. Okay. So that never even crossed your mind.
Hell no. Absolutely not.
Yeah, it wouldn't be.
I may be crazy, but I ain't stupid.
Yeah. I might be crazy stupid, but I ain't dumb.
Yeah. No, he was a wild dude. He really was, man. I mean, he was just one of those, wild kids. He was like a nature child,
Right.
He was a real
We need to
Floridian,
find him. We need to find him and put him on some expeditions.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like,
I mean,
okay, I ain't going up
he's
there.
still
Let's
alive.
send him.
We're old men now, but
I've got a few places I would, that I don't want to go in a way. So it'd be like, hey, let's send Bubba in there. He's like, he'll go. He's crazy enough to do it.
Listen,
because I'm scared.
I get vibes, when I'm out someplace, when I'm on an investigation or I'm on an expedition, I get a vibe, and if the vibe tells me don't go in there, I don't go in there. I don't push it. You know what I mean? I listen to my gut. My gut says, maybe you should leave now. Then I leave now because
And to me, I think that's the best way to be because it's the safest way to be, for sure. So you're doing the right thing with that, I believe, because you're considering, living.
I have
you
to
want to
take
be
care of
alive.
my wife and kids.
You got a responsibility to keep yourself alive when you have
and my family. I have a responsibility too.
Correct. Right.
But
so
you want me to go into?
Let's go into some other stuff. Whatever you think is interesting, man. Let's do it.
We went out one night. We found there's a place where we go. It's called Nucular Lake, and the reason it's called Nuclear Lake is because they used to mine uranium there back in the 70s, and they used to refine it. And at one point there was an accident. The refinery blew up, and everything spilled into the lake. And the government shut the mining thing down and cleaned up the lake, and they supposedly spent millions of dollars to clean this lake up. But this place is a place of high strangeness. There's UFOs seen there. There are Sasquatch seen there. There are light anomalies in the woods. Whatever you can think of, it happens at this place. Well, one Halloween, we decided, me, my tech guy Brian, and my videographer Bill decided we were going to go to Nuclear Lake on Halloween and do a night investigation and just see what happens. I had done a previous scouting expedition and found these 3 crystal stones set up like in a pyramid. And I said, wow, these are very unusual. When we come back that night, we're going to start our investigation here. So we went back, and that's about 4 miles in, I would say 3, maybe 5 miles into the woods. And we hiked in. We always go in and we do a day-night. That's, I like to be there during the day as well as at night and settle in. And we find this location and we set up, and we call our psychic, and she tells us, you're going to see this and you're going to see that. And we never believe her, but she's always 100% accurate. But we never believe her at the time. And so we're sitting there, and we hear, I got the parabolic mic going, and I hear this like Morse code coming out of the sky. And we record the Morse code, and we can't figure out what it is. And so we're all debating on what could it possibly be. Could it be nuclear radiation in the trees from when the trees were small, yada, yada, yada. And my tech guy, Brian, is listening to the parabolic mic, and he hears something walking our way, coming from the west, but a solid 2 miles away from us. But you can hear this thing coming, boom, 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 okay? So he gives it to me, and I'm listening, and Bill's listening, and Brian is like, I don't know what's coming our way, but whatever it is, it's big. And I'm thinking, it's Hallows Eve. We're in a place of high strangeness. There's actually a meteor shower going on that night. There's a full moon. We got coyotes to the west of us just going off, and we got a kennel to the east of us, and these dogs are going off, and everything is going off. And we're sitting there in the darkness, and here we are with, a couple of headlamps on. Well, we never had headlamps on, but we were wearing them. But we had glow sticks just for some light. Had glow sticks set up around us, and we all have 18-inch machetes and 10-inch survival knives. And everybody's got 2 cans of pepper spray because there are coyotes there. There are black bear. There are mountain lions. These are the deep woods, and I live upstate New York, and these animals are here, and you have to be able to protect yourself from these wild animals. So we're sitting there, and this thing walks up to us, and it stops below us in the swamp. And now we're up on a ridge, maybe 50 feet above it, and maybe 50 feet to the west of it. And we have this stone retaining wall that's in the middle of the woods for no apparent reason. It's just these stone walls all over the place. And Bill has got his back to the wall, and I'm facing Bill, and Brian's facing me, and we're like a triangle formation. And we hear a rock knock. Pop, pop, pop. And, everybody's like, what the hell's that? And I said, it sounds like a rock knock. So I do a tree knock. We get a tree knock from the west. We get a tree knock from the south of us, from the south side of the lake, which is, 4 miles away at that point. And then we hear the most powerfulest whoops you ever heard. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And I'm telling you, these whoops are going right through us. Right through us. The ground is shaking. You could feel the vibration. And as soon as this creature did these 3 powerful whoops, the coyotes and the dogs went dead silent. The woods went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Now we're sitting there. We jump over the retaining wall and we head towards where we heard these whoops. We got 3 different kind of cameras going: infrared, full spectrum, night vision, all kinds of stuff, thermal imager. We're trying to get this creature on film, and there's nothing there. Bill's got this 1,000-lumen flashlight that lights the woods up like it's daytime. Nothing there. We're looking for eye shine. We can't see anything. So we jump back over the wall, and we sit down, and we're discussing just what happened. And then we get a rock the size, I'm going to say, of a bowling ball. Comes up over the ridge, lands between me and Brian. It rolls down, and it hits Brian's chair. I mean, this thing looked like it was a shot put. Someone had thrown it like a shot put. So, Bill and Brian at this point are ready to go. They're like, we got to leave. We got to leave. And I'm like, no. Let's not go. Let's see what happens. Let's just let this play out and see what happens. I'm not ready to leave yet. But we all jump back over the wall, and we go back. And again, with all our gear, there's nothing there. I don't know what spectrum of light this creature is in, but we can't see it, no matter where it is. So we go back, and we sit down, and we're settled down, and all we have are the glow sticks for some ambient light. And you hear what sounds like something charging up the ridgeline. Bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. This thing is coming. It's coming fast. And I'm thinking it's either a black bear or a mountain lion. And it's coming. And Bill is sitting with his back to the stone wall. Bill jumps up and starts to run. I jump up. I grab Bill. And I never take my eyes off of where the sound is coming from, because I truly expect to see a mountain lion hit that wall and jump on one of us, I got my survival knife out, and I'm ready to just gut this thing, whatever it is. And I grab Bill, and I spin him around, and I say, don't run. Stand your ground. And Brian, so we're standing there in like a triangle formation, and everybody's got our survival knife out. And you could hear this thing coming, and it's coming. Bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. It gets right up to the stone wall, and nothing comes over the wall. We never see anything. Of course, at that point, we all have our headlamps on, and nothing comes over the wall. But you can hear it run right up to the wall. Nothing turns around and walks away. But the minute the charge stopped, and I didn't know that at that time that Sasquatches did bluff charges. I knew that bears did, and that's what I thought it was. I really thought it was a black bear or a mountain lion. Soon as this thing hits that wall, and nothing comes over that wall, we're all dumbfounded. And we turn to each other, and now from the south end of the lake, you hear a whoop and a tree knock. And there's no way this creature just went 5 miles in 3 seconds. But we never seen anything leave. We don't know what the hell happened. So at this point, everybody's ready to leave. Again, I'm not ready to go. I'm like, let's just hang out a little bit longer and let's see what happens. So we hang out and we're sitting there and the woods go silent. We don't hear anything. So we decide to move to our second location. We had scattered out 3 locations on the way in, and we were going to hit them on the way out, the last one being the one closest to where we parked our cars, which is a campsite where the Sasquatches come in off of the Appalachian Trail, where a lot of people have reported them coming into their campsites and rummaging through their stuff. So we get to our second location, which is we're walking to our second location, and we're at the north end of the lake, and I see this white light flickering in the sky, like a strobe light. And I'm like, oh, God, what the hell is this, And no sooner do I see it, Brian is filming. He's streaming live on Twitter, so he's got it on film. He's filming it. Bill says, what the hell is that? As soon as he says, what the hell is that, this thing stops dead in the sky, and it makes a beeline towards us. It comes right to us. Now, you got to understand, this is in the fall. There's no leaves on the trees, and we're standing on these big rocks, and there's this thing hovering above us, strobe light, for lack of a better definition, a UFO. It's strobing, it's sitting above us. We're looking at it. So I tell the guys, shut off your headlamps. And I said, Bill, give me a time check. And he says, it's 9 o'clock. I said, okay. We shut off our headlamps, and it hits us with a floodlight. And we're all sitting in this floodlight in these rays. And, we're looking at it, and it's looking at us. And if you watch the video on YouTube, you hear us cursing. What the hell is it? Is it a drone? Is it a plane? Is it, something from the Parks Department? Because we are on federal land. And then it just turns around and it leaves. It goes on its merry way. And we get to our second location, and we're sitting at the edge of the Appalachian Trail where it comes into this opening, this meadow. And we're sitting in this meadow, and we're just discussing what the hell we just seen. So in the meantime, we call the psychic Cindy up, and Cindy says, okay, this location is totally different than the last location. This location, you're going to see shadow figures and like little, what do you call those things? Not trolls, but those garden gnomes. You're going to see gnomes. You're going to see all this stuff. She's telling us this crazy stuff, and we're like, are you out of your mind? And she's telling us that this is a place of high strangeness, and there's a portal there, and everything comes in and out of, and, she's telling us all the stuff that we just can't wrap our heads around. So at one point, I'm taking pictures of the trees. I see like 12 7-foot shadow figures jumping from tree to tree. Now, Bill is actually filming the meteor shower at that time. I'm looking over Brian's shoulder, looking at these 7-foot shadow figures jumping from tree to tree. I'm taking pictures of them. Brian's looking over my shoulder, and he's seeing these little 3-foot gnome creatures running from tree to tree. So he says to Bill, point the camera in that direction, and let's see what you see. So Bill comes over to me, and he gives me the monitor. I'm holding the monitor, and he's filming the trees. And sure as shit, I swear to God, hand to God, we see not one, but 2 little gnomes run. One runs out behind a tree and he goes to another tree, and the second one runs out. And we're freaking out because now we got this on video. We're filming. We got a SIM card in the camera. We're filming this stuff. And we're sitting there, and now these 2 light anomalies show up on the other side of the lake. Now, I've heard about these light anomalies that show up, and people chase them, and they get lost, and the Native Americans say, don't chase these things into the woods. There's, if you see them, go the other way. And so I told Brian to bring his laser pointer, and I would bring mine. And if we seen these light anomalies, we'd hit them with our laser pointers to see what happens. And so we're on the west side of the lake, and we see these 2 light anomalies on the east side, like where we just came from, where we had that Bluff charge. And so I tell Brian, okay, you hit the one on the right with your green laser. I'll hit the one on the left with my red laser. I said, Bill, you light up the whole area with the 1,000 lumen flashlight. Let's see what happens. On 3. Boom. We hit these things with our lasers, and the minute these lasers hit those 2 balls of light or orbs or whatever you want to call them. These things blink out. Bill lights up the whole area with a 1,000 lumen flashlight. There's nothing there. Very, very strange. So now we're sitting there, and I start going through my camera at the pictures, and I start noticing that on a lot of my photographs, there's a blue mist and there's a red fog. So I said, Brian, check your camera, because he's got a different digital camera than I do, and he's getting the same thing. And I'm shooting west, he's shooting east, and he's capturing the same blue mist and the red fog. At this point, we hear what sounds like a family hiking down the Appalachian Trail, okay? It sounds like a mother and father and two small kids laughing and giggling and coming down the trail. So I say to Bill, time check. He says, it's 11 o'clock. I said, it's impossible. We just called Cindy at 9:30, and it seems like we've only been here 10 minutes. You know, how did we lose an hour and a half, you know? And he's like, I don't know, but it was 11:30. We lost 2 hours. And I'm like, how did we lose 2 hours? But in the meantime, you hear this family coming down the island. I'm like, who would bring their family into the woods on Hallows Eve, in the middle of the woods? So I said, everybody put your headlamps on, you know, because we don't want to scare this family when they step out into the meadow. There's three large men with, you know, machetes and survival knives. So we're waiting, and the voices come right up to the edge of the trail, and no one ever comes out. So I said, Bill, grab your flashlight. Let's go see what happened to these family. Maybe something happened. We go in, we hike in, you know, 100 yards or so. There's nobody there. Call Cindy. I said, Cindy, we explained to her what happened. She said, you guys are in a time-space continuum, and the family that you heard are going to be there tomorrow. They're not there now. And we're like, what are you telling us? Are you out of? And she said, I'm telling you, this place has an energy about it like no other place I've ever felt. And at one point, Cindy, the energy was affecting her so much so that she sounded like she had cerebral palsy. She couldn't even talk to us. We had to walk away from the area we were at. Okay, so now we're walking out. We're going to our last location. We want to be there for midnight. We get to our last location, and now I realize, oh, wait a minute, tonight's the night. They changed the clocks back, and now we're going to have to wait until 2 o'clock to change the clocks back. And, you know, I wanted to be here for 12, and we've been in the woods for 8 hours. Nobody wanted to stick around any longer. So as we're hiking out, we're discussing what a crappy night it was. You know, my God, you know, we're here for 8 hours, nothing happened, and, you know, not realizing all the stuff that we just happened. And the game plan was when we left, we were going to go to the diner, grab a bite to eat, grab a cup of coffee, and discuss the night. Everybody gets in their cars and goes in the opposite directions. Nobody goes to the diner. Next day, Brian calls me up, and he says, I got a bump on my head, and I'm splitting blue phlegm. What happened last night? I said, I don't know. He goes, anything wrong with you? I said, yeah, I got a fat lip, like someone punched me in the lip. What feels like there's something implanted in my lip. It's hard as a rock. So then we called Bill to see if anything happened to him, and he says he woke up in the middle of the night with night terrors screaming, and that he had a bruise on the back of his neck, like a rash, almost like a rash, like something happened to him. So we call Cindy, who's in Arkansas, who does all her readings over the phone. She uses me as a conduit. And I explained to her what happened. And she says, you know, it's crazy that you're because the arm that I had the phone in when I was talking to you guys last night, I have a rash down that whole arm. So somehow, some way, we all ended up with injuries. No one ever went down. No one got hurt. We were all loopy for at least 2 days. So nobody was in their right mind. I mean, we were functional. We could go to work and stuff. But believe me when I tell you, I know me. I was a little off. And that was our first night at Nucular Lake. So that was the Halloween investigation. You want to ask me any questions or anything? Still there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, golly, dude, you tell the story so good, man. He's like, I don't even know what kind of questions I would ask. You know.
I mean, you know, I'm kind of rushing. I'm rushing through it because there's so many more things that happened at Nucular Lake. It's just this place is a place of fire. And I believe, personally, I believe that the Native Americans believe this was a place of high strangers. If the government is mining uranium there, you know what I mean? What did the Native Americans see come down out of the sky? Maybe there was somebody mining stuff there as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I believe it's a sacred. Because there's all kinds of these little cairns that are up in the woods, up these rock figurines. Yeah. They're in places that you'd have to be a billy goat to go up and build them. You can't get up there to build them. I don't know who's going up there to build these things. You know?
Yeah,
and,
me neither. I mean, you know, so it's like I'm kind of leaving the storytelling up to you, you know, in a way.
Oh, okay.
You know, just keep telling your stories, dude. I mean, they're awesome.
Okay.
For real.
All right. So then I go back. I set up another investigation. I go back with Bill, my photographer, and we're showing this woman, Heidi from England. She's she's out of the UK. She's a ufologist, and she's never seen Sasquatch structures. So we're showing her structures, and we're in the middle of the woods, and we get an EVP on Bill's camera that calls his name, a Class A EVP that says his name, not once but twice. It says Bill. Now, we don't know this at the time because Bill's talking about putting bug spray on and all this stuff. So as we're walking back to the location where we were a Bluff charge, because that's where we're taking Heidi, we come across a piece of woods that was all burnt out. It must have been a forest fire in it over the winter. And it's a piece of woods that I've never been able to get into because the bramble and the brush and everything in the briars, it's just too thick. You can't get in there. But now it's all burnt out. Something is drawing me in there. So I'm walking into this burnt out area. And as I get to the bottom of the hill of this area, I look up and it looks like there's a cairn on top of this stone. So I said, Bill, zoom in on that with your camera. Let's see what we got. So Bill says, oh my God, you're not going to believe it. It's like a megalithic stone with hundreds of stone on top of it. So he's like, how the hell are we going to get up there? And I said, follow me. And I charge up the ridge like a madman. I get up on top of the ridge and it turns out to be this high plateau. And we find what I consider to be the sacred area. And I don't know if it was built by the Native Americans or by the Sasquatches or who, but we get up there and there's these giant megalithic stones set up in a circle, a huge circle the size of a football field. And each one of these stones has hundreds of stones on top of them. And we're taking pictures and we're filming, and we call this woman Dr. Rita Louise. She's an archaeologist, and we show her, we FaceTime with her, and Dr. Rita says, where are you guys, in England? And we're like, no, we're in New York. And she's like, oh my God, you found this in New York? And up on this ridge line, there's archways and X's and bends and breaks and twists like you've never seen before. They start down at the root and go all the way to the tip of these trees. There are trees pulled over and wedged under giant logs that are 60 feet long and a foot thick. And if you try to pull this tree out from under it, it's so far under, it comes out so far, you can't budge this tree. So I'm telling myself, okay, next time I do an investigation here, this is ground zero. This is where I'm coming. This is a sacred site. I believe it's a sacred site. I call Cindy. She says it's a sacred site. She feels not only is it sacred to the Native Americans, but she feels it's sacred to the Sasquatches. To the west of us, it's a high ridge line. And something is telling me beyond that ridge line is where the Sasquatches, live. So I'm not going up on that ridge. I'm not going over that ridge. I'm going to give them their space. But this is where I'm going. So I go back one night. Again, I set up an expedition. Everybody cancels on me. I'm going by myself come hell or high water. I said, I'm going. I don't, and everybody's trying to talk me out of it because they're like, there's a reason why maybe it's an omen. You shouldn't go. And I'm like, well, maybe the reason why everybody canceled because it's something special is going to happen just for me. But at the last minute, one of my buddies, Dan, decides he wants to come. So I say, sure, come on. So we go up on the high ridge and we settle down. Again, we get in there during the daylight hours and we settle down. I got a digital voice recorder going behind me on one of those megalithic stones. I got the IR camera going. I got the thermal imager going. Dan's got I got the parabolic mic. Dan's got the night vision goggles, and the night vision goggles I have two screens. It has a green screen, and it has an inverted screen, like a black and white. I call it X-ray vision. So it looks like you're looking at an X-ray. And he's not letting go of these goggles all night. He loves these goggles. He's never been on a Sasquatch expedition. He's in his glory. We're sitting there, and we're hanging out, and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, a couple hours after nightfall, the woods go deadly silent, and you hear something coming in. Someone's walking in down the ridge line to take a look at us, and I'm thinking, Dan is like, something's coming now. I can hear him on the parabolic mic, and you can hear him like he's right next to you on the parabolic mic. The mic is amazing. And I was like, don't worry, just relax, don't freak out. This is a sacred site. Nothing is going to happen to us here. We've never been harmed by these creatures. I got a special relationship with these things. I'm trying to convince them that, just stay in control. Don't panic. So he's sitting there with the parabolic, and I'm sitting underneath the archway. I have my back to the ridge line and the trail that comes down. So whatever this thing is, it's coming towards me. I got my back towards it. And then Dan pulls up the goggles, and he says, Al, 50 feet behind you to the right is a 7-foot Sasquatch. And he's standing next to the tree, and he's looking at us. And I'm like, okay, don't panic. And I get up, and I grab my IR camera, and I turn it around because I want to get it on film. I want to zoom in on it. And I turn around to film it, and it's not there. I don't know if it steps behind a tree. I don't know where it goes, but it's not there. Okay, so we sit down. 15 minutes go by. Dan pulls up the night vision goggles again, and he goes, Al, it's like 25 feet away from us now. It's to your left, and it's standing by a tree, another tree, and it's rocking back and forth. What are we going to do? And I was like, don't worry about it. Just relax. Don't worry about it. I get up. I get my thermal imager. Again, I turn around with the thermal imager, try to get it on thermal. It's not there. I don't know if it's dodging behind trees every time I get up, but I'm not leaving the cameras running all night because I don't have a ton of batteries to keep them running all night. So I shut them off when I'm not using them. So again, 15 minutes go by, and now Dan is freaking out. He says, Al, this thing is 15 feet behind you, squatting down next to a bush. What are we going to do? And I said, don't worry about it. Just relax. Don't worry about it. And I get up, and I turn around, and I have a tactical flashlight, and I hit the area with the tactical flashlight, and it's not there. But it was there a second ago when Dan was looking at it through the night vision goggles. So I don't know where this creature went. I don't know if it's able to bend light like the Predator movies, or it goes into a different spectrum of light that we can't see it. But every time I turned around, no matter what spectrum of light I used, I couldn't get it on film. So then we did something very interesting. We broke out a Native American pipe and a flute and drums, and we did like a Native American ceremony. And we banged, the tom-toms, and we blew the flute, and we wanted to see what would happen. Now, all night long, every half hour, I would get up and I would do a 360 with all of the cameras and the digital camera as well, taking pictures and filming around us. And the only thing I was getting was like weird pulsating cold anomalies up in the tree. It looked like blue orbs that were pulsating. At this point, Brian calls us, and he's been working with our psychics in the on remote viewing. And he says, I don't know if this is something, I don't know if this is nothing, but I've been remote viewing your location, and I see a white flash and a blue beam of light. I don't know if something's going to happen, but this is what I'm seeing. Take it for what it is. Okay, well, if something happens, we'll let you know. So we're sitting there, and in one of those series of pictures, all night long, I must have took 60 pictures, and there wasn't one orb in any of the photographs. After we did that Native American ceremony, I got 2 photographs with about 60 orbs in each one of them. And in one of the photographs, There's a red orb, a blue orb, a green orb, and a white orb, and they're right next to us. And it felt like to me that the Native American spirits had come in to see who was doing a ceremony at their site. So at that point, Dan says, I think, we should leave. I don't know where the other Sasquatch left. And then we started getting rocks thrown at us. One rock here, one rock there. We hear a tree knock. You hear a whistle. You hear a whoop, but it's a little bit off, doesn't quite sound right. You hear a coyote again. It's a little bit off. That just doesn't quite sound right. So Dan says, maybe we should leave. And I said, okay, we've been here 8 hours or so. It's time to leave. So as we're leaving, we're hiking out the mining road. Dan says, hey, Al, show me that part of the Appalachian Trail where those Sasquatches were hunting those coyotes that night, and that coyote ran over your feet. And I was like, okay. So we go off the mining road and onto the Appalachian Trail, and we go off into the trail about 100 yards or so, 200 yards, and we start finding wood structures off the trail. So now we go from just showing him where I was to actually starting to investigate and taking photographs. And as we were leaving that trail to head back out to the mining road, Dan turns around, and he's standing in front of me. And I don't know if this was meant for me or if it was meant for him, but as he turns around to take a step back towards the mining road, his knees buckle and his body goes into this convulsion, and it looks like, JFK getting shot at the grassy knoll, all right? I reach down to grab him because I think he's going down. I'm going to catch him. But he catches himself, and I hold him up, and we're leaning against a tree. And I said, Dan, what happened? He said, Al, I just seen a white flash, and a blue beam of light just went through me. He said it went through my fingertips on my left hand, through my body, and out my right hand. And I seen a white flash and a blue beam, exactly what Brian was talking about. He goes, what the hell just happened? And I said, I think you just got hit with some infrasound, I said, tomorrow when you wake up, if you're urinating blood, you should go to the emergency room. So we hiked out of there that night, and, we went to the diner and we discussed what happened. And I thought it was going to be a special night for me. It turns out that, Dan, who came in on the 11th hour, he was the one who's seen the creatures. He was the one who experienced the infrasound. And, he's hooked now. Every time I go back, he wants to come. So he's pretty, wound up about going back to Nucular Lake with us. And that was like the second or third time we had gone back there. Any questions?
That's pretty interesting for sure. So, when you have all these high strangeness kind of things happening with the Bigfoot thing, what do you think these things are?
I don't know. I honestly have. I've been through so many different theories over the years.
But, I've heard people talk about, okay, they're flesh and blood and this and that. Yeah, I believe they're flesh and blood. Because they're out there in the woods and they hunt and they kill and they eat and all that kind of stuff. But there's so much paranormal that goes on around them that makes it really strange. You know what I'm saying? It's not just like the same as any other type of subject where you would have the subject, you could define it, and and then that's it. The Bigfoot thing has a lot of high strangeness. Don't you think?
Yes, I agree. And for years I didn't believe that any of that stuff was connected. But ever since we found this location, and this was a location of high strangeness, and everything seems to come in and out of this location, and they seem to be there, along with everything else. So, I've actually changed my opinion on it, and I think that, maybe all of this stuff is interconnected in some kind of way that we just can't figure out yet. I don't know if it's interdimensional or time-space continuum, stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not a physics guy. I don't know. I'm just a regular dude, you know. But it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you know, if you want, I'll tell you what happened the last time I went there with the ghost hunting girls. That was a pretty wild night as well.
Yeah, sure, man. Tell us about that.
Okay. Okay. So you know, I'm a paranormal investigator, so I know a lot of paranormal teams. And I had two women from one of the teams come up to me and they say, "Hey, Al, you know, next time you go out and you do a cryptid investigation, especially a Bigfoot thing, can we come with you?" And I always invite people who are not members of the team to come along, just to validate anything we find or we don't find. You know what I mean? I'm not making anything up. These people don't have any reason to lie for me. So again, I invite, you know, a dozen people to come out with us. And again, one by one, everybody cancels. So now it's just me and the two women. Now, I have never been to this location with women before. So I don't know what I'm going to experience here that night because this is all new to me. So we hike in 3-4 miles in. The girls hike in with me, and we set up camp at the sacred site. And we sit down, and we're getting there. And as the, you know, and this place is dark during the day because the canopy is thick. So, you know, once it gets dark, it's really, really dark. And as brave as these ladies are, sitting in the dark with ghosts and hunting and stuff like that, being out of your element in the woods can really creep people out. I'm very comfortable in the woods, in the dark. Like this location, this place that I call the sacred site, to me, it has such a calming energy. I could set up a tent underneath that archway and sleep under that archway and sleep like a baby the whole night. There's no doubt in my mind. I could sleep there and sleep like a rock and not worry about anything happening to me. I mean, everybody thinks I'm out of my mind, but that's the way I feel about this location. So we hike in, we get to the location. Again, you know, it's day-night kind of thing. We get in during the daylight hours, and we set up base camp. And again, I set up, once it gets dark, I set up a perimeter of glow sticks around us for some ambient light. Everybody's got a mining light on their head so they can see if they have to put the lights on. And one of the girls is using the night vision goggles, and she's loving it because she's never used it before. And the other girl is using the parabolic mic, and she's loving it because she can't believe how loud things are that are so far away. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, the woods, you know, I get the feeling. Oh, I actually call Cindy up, and I'm talking to Cindy, and Cindy and Margaret Cindy and Margaret are talking on the phone, and Wendy is walking around the sacred site, taking pictures and stuff. And Cindy is telling, you know, Margaret, this is a sacred site, Native Americans, yada, yada, yada. Now, Wendy is the sensitive of the two. And so after we get off the phone with Cindy, Wendy comes back to me and she says, you know, there's a Native American woman sitting on the outside of the circle waiting for her tribe. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She says, I met a Native American woman. She's a lost soul, and she's asked me if it was okay for her to wait here with us because she wants to see if her tribe comes back for a ceremony. She wants to reconnect with her tribe. And I told her it was fine. I said, of course, you know, absolutely it's fine. You know, and so we're sitting there, and it's getting dark, and the darker it gets, you can feel their anxiety starting to rise. And I'm like, listen, ladies, don't freak out. Nothing's going to happen. This is a sacred site. Trust me. I've been here so many times. I have so many experiences. None of them negative. I promise you nothing is going to happen to you. And I'm trying to keep them calm. And then you hear a tree knock from the ridge line. And then you hear a tree knock from the east. And then you hear what sounds like a hoot owl, but it's not a hoot owl. And you hear a whistle. And then it starts to really get creepy because you can hear these creatures coming in, and they're encircling us. And these are the big guys, okay? These are not the juveniles. These are not the scouts. These are the big boys because they want you to know that they're coming. Because Margaret is freaking out. She's like, Al, I can hear them like they're right next to us on the parabolic mic. And I'm like, Margaret, you don't need the parabolic mic to hear them. because they're stomping. They want us to know that they're here. And they circle us. And the girls are really starting to get nervous. And I'm trying to convince them not to panic, stay calm, because if I can feel your anxiety, these creatures can feel your anxiety, and we definitely don't want to make them nervous. So we're sitting there, and then you hear a tree knock, and you hear another tree knock, and you hear a whistle, and you hear a whoop, and you hear a hoot, and, you know, the girls are starting to get nervous. And then we start getting hit with the rocks. Not necessarily getting hit, but rocks are coming in. And it feels like we're being strafed. Like handfuls of rocks are coming in, small rocks, you know, the size of maybe a $50 or something like that. But nobody's getting hit, literally being hit by the stones. They're landing in a perfect circle all around us outside the perimeter of glow sticks. Now, how these creatures can throw rocks up over the trees by the handfuls and have them land like that is beyond me. But the girls are starting to freak out. And they're like, you know, we're surrounded, we're getting thrown with rocks, they're whooping, and maybe we should get the hell out of here, you know? And I was like, just, you know, relax a little bit. Let's just take a deep breath and, you know, don't panic. And then at one point, I heard something I never heard before. I heard a tree break. And this break was so loud and so powerful that it sounded like a 30-06 going off by your ear. And at that point, the girls freaked out. They're like, okay, Al, we're leaving. I was like, okay, we'll go, relax. Let's load up our gear. Let's pack our bags, but let's do it in a calm, mellow kind of way. Let's not rush. Let's just, you know, we're not going to run out of here and scared with our tails between our legs. We're going to leave like the way we came in, nice and calm and relaxed. So we load up our backpacks. We have, you know, beach chairs with us, the folding chairs. We bungee cord them to our backpacks and all our equipment and everything. And I got all the cameras I had to break down and the digital voice recorder. We pack everything up. We put our headlamps on and we start to hike out. And we get down to the main trail on the Appalachian Trail and we're walking out. And as we're walking out, you know, we don't see any animal life. There's no animal life anywhere. And we get to the meadow where we had that experience with that family on Halloween. So I said, let's stop here, take a breather. You know, we're like a mile away from the sacred site. Didn't hear anything following us. Whatever was there that wanted us out of there, we respected their space and we left. So we break out our chairs and we sit down and we start discussing what just happened. And the girls are freaking out. They're like, this is an amazing night. You're right. This place never disappoints. And, you know, we can just scratch this off our bucket list. This is just, you know, to hear the whoops and to hear them walking and the rocks and the breaks. And they were just blown away by the whole night, you know, even though we never ever seen any of them on any of the cameras or the night vision goggles. They were excited. So we sat there for about a half hour and settled down, had us some water. And then we packed up our gear and we got on the mining road and we started hiking out. We're about 3.5 miles away from our car at this point. And we're hiking out and we're walking down the mining road and maybe 25 yards to my right and 25 yards to Wendy's left and maybe another 10 yards behind us. We can hear whistling, one on one side and one on the other. This one is whistling and then that one is whistling. And now behind us on the mining road, it seems like maybe a mile behind us on the mining road, you can hear what sounds like a hoot owl hooting. And, you know, and I'm explaining to Margaret, I said, I don't, you know, necessarily think that's a hoot owl. And, you know, Wendy, who's the sensitive, says, you know, we're being followed, right? And I was like, yeah, they're just, they're hurting us out. I said, and we're going to just walk out of here at our own pace. I said, whatever you do, ladies, don't run. Because if you run, you're going to set them off. And their minds are going to go from herding to hunting. And we can't outrun these creatures. So just stay in control and walk at a nice, regular pace. So and then I'm arguing with Margaret about the hoot owl because she says, oh, that's a hoot owl. I got hoot owls in my backyard, and I know what a hoot owl sounds like. And I said, well, you know what, Margaret? Maybe it is, maybe it ain't. My gut tells me it's not because we got two Sasquatches on either side of us, and I'm thinking the one directly behind us on the road following us is a Sasquatch too, and not a hoot owl. So we go another mile or so, maybe a mile and a half, and then all of a sudden, this hoot owl that is like 200 yards behind us goes from being 200 yards behind us 1 second and being right behind us the next second later. Now, I don't know how anything can go from being 100 yards away to being right behind us in a second, and we all turn around because we literally expect to see this thing standing right behind us. I mean, this hoot was so loud that it actually vibrated the ground we were on. At this point, we all turn around. There's nothing there. We put our mining lights on, and, you know, they shoot off a pretty good distance, maybe 50 feet or 50 yards or so, and I'm not seeing anything. But at this point, the two creatures that were to our right and left jumped out onto the mining road with the third one that came charging up. And now they go off. They start doing what I've never heard this before in my life in all the years we've been there, monkey barking. And they're going, hoo, 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 hoo. And it's getting louder and louder and more intense. And they're jumping up and down. You can feel their feet hitting the ground. You can feel their hands slapping the road. The vibration is going through your legs. The monkey barking is going right through you. Wendy takes off running. She turns and she hauls ass. And I turn to her and I say, stop, don't run. At that point, Margaret starts to run, but she stops. Now, I don't know what's going on. Margaret is, and Al, your eyes are as big as saucers. And I'm like, I've never experienced this before. But when it first happened, the vibe I got was it was three juveniles and they just wanted to scare the shit out of the girls. That's what I got. But as it became more feverish, I think their intentions changed. And at the time, I'm thinking, I'm the only guy here. I'm the male, the dominant male of this group. I got to protect these women. What am I going to do? I don't have any guns on me. The only thing I have is a flare gun. And I'm thinking, do I shoot the flare over their head so I can get a look at them? But I don't want to burn the woods down. So then I said, maybe I should just shoot the flare on the mining road because it is concrete just to back them off. But then, God forbid, one of them catches on fire. They'll definitely rip up to shreds. So I got 1,000 thoughts going through my head at a split of a thousandth of a second. I pull out my survival knife. I put on my mining light, and I start walking towards them, and I'm screaming, and I'm yelling, and I'm telling them, knock it off. That's enough with this nonsense. You don't have to be this way. We're leaving anyway. And I'm in my mind's eye, I'm thinking they're like three kids running around at a house party that are out of control, and some parent has got to put them in their place, and I'm that guy. So I'm screaming at them. I got the knife waving in my hand. You can see the blade flashing in the miner's light, and I'm walking towards them, and Margaret is like saying, Al, please don't go any further. Don't go any closer. Stay back. But I want to get them in my mining light. I want to see them. You know what I mean? Because I'm thinking juvenile, 6 feet tall, maybe 300-400 pounds. You know what I mean? But you can hear three different voices barking. You know, it's the monkey barking. Three different distinct voices. So anyway, at some point, I stop walking. Margaret comes to me. Wendy comes back to me. And we're all standing there, the three of us, and we're looking down the road with our miner's lights on. And we're not seeing anything, and the wood goes dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Like, you know, when you yell at kids and they just go in the corner and be quiet. I don't know if these creatures turned and ran back towards the sacred site. I don't know if these creatures just jumped back into the woods and hid behind a tree or a rock. But all I know is after I yelled at them, they never came back out. There was never another peep from them. And then Margaret says, where is this goddamn ranger station? Because there's a ranger station at the mouth of the trail. And I said, it's about a mile away yet. So as we're walking out, I turn to Wendy, and she's sensitive, and I say, what are you feeling? And she says, what are you feeling? I says, I don't think we're being followed anymore. And she goes, either do I. I think you scared them off, Al. whatever you did, you put them in their place. And, I said, now we can walk out of here at our own pace, and no one's going to run us out of here or scare us out of here. And that was the last time we were there. You there,
wow,
Brenton?
that was that's pretty cool, man. For real. Yeah, I mean, that's puzzling. I mean, in a way, it's kind of puzzling because it's hard to make out exactly what was going on. I mean, we can't get in their head. I mean,
absolutely. And I wasn't sure, because when we got back to the car, we were basically discussed what just happened, And I said, I'm not sure if it was 3 male juveniles who got their scent of the women and then got excited and were working themselves up to a frenzy, or if it was 3 juvenile females who got the women's scent and were pissed off that women were in their territory that night. I'm not sure which way it was, because I never got a light on them. I never was able to see who was standing there on the mining road jumping up and down and barking. But, I mean, it was an experience that I'll never forget. And the girls said that. They said, look, we'll never go back into these woods during the day, never mind at night ever again. That was the end of their squatching. They're going back to ghost hunting.
Yeah, I don't blame them. It's kind of like you're guessing for sure on any of it. So,
it's all guesswork, absolutely.
Yeah. So to me, your theory is as good as any, and who knows?
No, I'll be the first to admit I don't know. I don't know anything. The longer I do this and the more I investigate, the less I know. I swear to God, that's just the way it seems to work.
Yeah, I agree. It's insane, man. It really is. But really, some very fascinating encounters. In a way, you kind of got to leave it up to the listeners to decide what they think.
I mean,
because we can give our opinion all day long.
Absolutely.
And I have opinions on it, but I don't know if they're right. You know
right.
what I mean?
I agree. I agree.
So I don't know what to say in a lot of the cases, but you tell a fantastic story, dude. I'm telling you, you're a good storyteller.
Thank you.
You just tell it like it is, and here it is, and then make up what you want to out of it, in your own mind,
I just explain it the way it happened, and people, they want to believe it, they believe it. They don't want to believe it. To each his own. I don't expect everybody to believe everything I say, but I'll be brutally honest with you. I've always got witnesses and people who can validate everything I say, because, otherwise it is just a story. I don't call them stories. I call them experiences. You know what I mean? Because I don't want people to think I'm making it up as I go.
Yeah, you're right. But, I mean, they are experiences. I believe that. Yeah. I mean, I do believe that they're real experiences. But what to make out of it, it's really hard to say, because I can give my opinion, and then someone else can give their opinion, and that kind of stuff. But
and there's no experts in the field.
Who
what I
knows
mean?
Who's right?
Right.
Yeah, it's all guesswork, and that's why there's no experts in the field.
Right. I mean, some people have more experience than others, but that doesn't make anybody an expert. You know what I mean? I always tell everybody, listen, I'm not psychic in any stretch of the imagination, no way, shape, or form. I'm not an expert. Everybody knows more than me, and take it for what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, I mean, all the stuff that you've talked about is like, man, that's a lot to take in, and I really don't know really what to say about a lot of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay,
let me tell
let
you,
the audience,
brother,
you know,
it gets stranger
what do
than
y'all
that,
think?
But, we won't go there.
Yeah, it's like, what do y'all think about it? You know,
Yeah.
because my audience is very astute.
I listen to your show all the time. I always put my comments in. I always comment on the show.
They don't need my opinion. I mean, most of them don't. I mean, you know what I'm saying. They've listened to as much stuff as I've covered, and
absolutely.
Plus some. So it's like they don't need me to tell them what to think. So it's like, okay, y'all, what do you think? You know, and it's like they're gonna have their opinion on it, and a lot of times I learn stuff from them, you know.
Yeah, I learn stuff all the time.
Cool. That's a cool way to think about it.
All the time. I really do. There's certain shows that, like I told you before, there's only a handful of shows I listen to that I believe are worth listening to. But every so often I'll hear stuff that, teaches me. And when I hear that, I get excited. It's like, wow.
Oh, yeah. No.
I never thought about that, because like I said in the beginning, I'm a black and white kind of guy, what I mean? Boots on the ground. What you see is what you get. I'm not smart enough to think out of the box. You know what I mean? I'm just your regular, working Joe kind of guy. And I just experience what I experience, whether that be,
let's us leave it to the audience. And
absolutely.
And let you all comment, and we'll check out the comments, and you tell us what you think. That's great to me.
And don't worry about hurting my feelings. I'm a big boy. I got thick skin, so don't worry about hurting my feelings. Be brutally honest. I would rather you be brutally honest with me.
Man, you've done a fantastic job, though, Alfred. Man, you tell a great story. I mean, basically, I'm sitting here. I just mute the microphone and let you take over. And, so it's like, I didn't have to do anything hardly. So you make me look good, and I was like, it's a cool show or whatever. Someone might say. It's like, I didn't say but 10 words, out the whole thing. And it's like,
next time we'll talk about
it was the best show you ever had. It's like I didn't say 10 times anything.
10 words that day, yeah. No, but a good host, that's what a good host does, though. You know what I mean? A good host lets the guest talk.
I've had my problems with that, man.
There are so many people that just like to hear the sound of their own voice. That I'll be honest with you, that's the reason most of the times I don't listen to a lot of these shows on YouTube, because I'm there to hear what the guest has to say.
And look, I've had my problems with that. I've gotten excited,
I run
my mouth, and it's like, oh my gosh, I said way too much, and you can see it in the comments. It's like,
but you know what? It's because you're
excited.
Right.
I mean, they're right about it. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, It's like, please forgive me.
You don't have to be sorry, because you're excited. You're talking about something that excites you.
Man. I'll get all tore up about it, and it's like, oh, dude, man, I want to know everything right now. And it's like, so I start asking all these questions, but in some of the cases I've heard the story already. So they don't realize that I'm not robbing them of any of the story, because I'm guiding the interview through the whole process of getting to all the stuff that he's already told me or she has already told me, so I started asking questions, and in my mind I was guiding the story to kind of a direction that I wanted it to go. To be able to talk about certain things. And I know that's hard for people to get. And if you're listening to it, then it doesn't matter if I had a plan or not. If it doesn't flow well, it doesn't flow well. And, and there's times that I've done that, And so I've learned, So that's kind of why I let you have the floor, and then you're like, "Are you there?" And I'm sitting there trying to unmute the microphone.
I thought the phone dropped.
I was like, I'm trying to my microphone, man. It's really hard to unmute.
I hear you tapping all the time.
Click it 3 or 4 times, and then you see the button stay solid. Because it blinks when it's muted. And then you click it and it's still blinking. It's like, you click it two or 3 more times and it's like all of a sudden it's solid. And then you're on. It's like, okay, sorry, dude. I was trying to unmute my microphone. I don't know what the deal is. It's a very good microphone. This microphone is really, really sensitive, man. I can set the dial up on it to where if a gnat flew by, you could hear it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what? I got to be pretty honest with you. Yesterday and today, we were pretty lucky because I didn't hear one fire engine or cop car go by.
I know, man.
What you usually hear when you.
I know. I let you talk, and it's like I'm sitting there listening, just making sure that there wasn't a. It's like, all right, there ain't nothing coming by. I'm gonna unmute and say something here. Blah. I was like, I know. But that's where I live right now, and that's the deal,
it is what it is, brother. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
That's where I'm at right now in this point in my life, and it's not the best neighborhood I ever lived in, but it's good enough, But
it could be worse, right?
Man, this is like Mexican town where I live, and it's the most quiet place I've ever lived, ever.
That's cool.
I've never heard one fight or anything like that. These people get up and they go to work. That's it.
Yeah, they get up and go to work. They're tired at the end of the day.
So it changed my mind on immigration. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of hardworking people that come into this country and they're immigrants, and most of the time you go outside, you hear them talk, and they don't talk in English.
No.
But it's like, I'll go outside when they're cooking out, and I'll just stare at their grill and stuff like that, and it's like they'll end up giving me a plate, It's like, here, you look hungry, I'm going to give you a plate. And it's like, oh, thanks, I appreciate it. It's like, I wasn't expecting that. But
nothing wrong with that, man.
Dude,
nothing wrong with that. My family immigrated here from Italy during the Great Depression, so you know what I mean. I know what it is to be an immigrant and grow up, and not that my father did, not me, but
my family came over here on the second ship after the Mayflower.
Oh my God!
Seriously, I'm not kidding you.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's the very, very, very beginning. The second ship after the Mayflower, and we were here, and some of the other things I know about my family is we had a part in the Underground Railroad.
Wow.
To help with, freeing some slaves and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's really interesting stuff. And when I trace my name all the way back into the other countries, my name was on coins of the period because the spelling change. Most of the time spelling changes over time of names. They Englishize it and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it was Sabine at one time, and
so it was French. Was it French?
It has some French roots in it, but then it went even in. I'm not sure really, but it had it didn't hardly have any vowels in it. You know what I'm saying? The spelling in it, but it was on the name. It was on coins because my relatives were kings. And
right.
They were super rich, and there was jokes that was out about my family because they were the Sawins are so rich that he couldn't sleep on a bed of rose petals because one was folded. There was like a rose petal. It was like had a crease in it or something. And he couldn't sleep on it. So there was like jokes about that stuff. And when Islamic invasions and stuff like that happened over into the European area.
European continent.
They started stealing like the Sawin women and stuff like that, and there was a dark period that a lot of people don't know about. Because there was an Islamic invasion that went all the way into Italy. A
lot of people don't know world history. You know what I mean? They don't even know American history. So
and that's what caused caused the Crusades. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. My family root goes back to the Roman Empire. You know what I mean? We traced our heritage back to the Roman Empire, and then that was on my father's side. My mother's side, she came from the north of Italy. Her family tree, I think there were countesses and counts and stuff like that on her side of the family. So I mean, I ain't got shit, you know what I mean? But
no, it's like that sucks. I had people that were so rich that there was jokes made about it, but I'm so poor that people make jokes.
I always
about
tell
me.
everybody I'm poor. I tell everybody I'm poor white trash. You know what I mean? That's what I tell everybody.
People like rag on me because he takes contributions to his channel, so he's like a loser. Blah blah blah.
Everybody takes contributions to their channel. You know what I mean?
You have to in these days, dude, because
you have to.
YouTube crashed, and that's all there is to it. My income went down from a fairly good income to like a quarter of it. It's like bam. And where I picked up an advertiser, so that's great.
That's
I
great.
appreciate
Absolutely.
that. And then from there, I have the income from YouTube, and I have the advertiser, and then I have a few other little like.
Well, you have a store now, right? Don't you have a store now?
And I have the online store. I haven't made nothing from that yet.
I'm gonna take a look in there and see what you got, because I'm a t-shirt guy. All my t-shirts have something on them.
There's some kind of cool stuff there, man. I really like the hats, dude. I want one of those hats for myself, but I can't afford it. I can't afford my own stuff, man. But the hats like have mysteries to search. It doesn't have my name on it, like Brenton Sawin Mysteries to Search. It has just mysteries to search. So it kind of makes it a little easier to wear.
That's okay. Yeah, I got you.
Just the show name, and the hats are really cool. I really want one of those hats. I'm only get one. And then there's t-shirts and there's all kinds of stuff. Backpacks.
Yeah, I'm gonna look in there, because I can't afford to support everybody that I've done interviews on, because I've done so many. But the guys that I consider to be... You only need to buy this stuff if you want it, I know, but I mean, like, certain guys that I consider to be friends that, that are radio guys, like, you and Vic and Wes, people like that. I'll go into the store and I'll buy like a coffee cup or a t-shirt, because I'm a t-shirt guy. But t-shirts and coffee cups are my thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I drink a lot of coffee. Yeah,
and I got those. There's coffee mugs in there, and there's t-shirts, and there's jackets. There's all kinds of stuff. Some of the clothes are like really cool, dude. I'm talking about some really nice, really cool shirts and jackets and stuff like that, and hoodies. It's like, man, I've not gotten any of them for myself, but it's like, man, those are freaking awesome looking, man. I was showing some of my friends the other day, and it was like, dude, I like that. It's like, I really, really like that shirt, man. It's like bad to the bone, dude. It was like, it looked cool. It looked really cool, man. It was like, super cool looking stuff, and you can't beat that if it's nice, you know. And it's plain. It's not like out in your. You know, I wanted my stuff to be not something that drags attention to you in such a way that it's hard to wear it. You know what I'm saying? If you got like a shirt that's got a Bigfoot on it, it says Bigfoot Hunter and so, that's too much. Mysteries to search. You know,
mysteries
people
is
don't
good.
know what that means.
I love the new logo too, with that light beam coming down and the creatures in it. I think it's a great banner that you have now. I love your new banner.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, I love it, man. I think it's a great banner, absolutely.
And I do have some T-shirts that I was going to do in the future with the cryptids playing cards. Kind of making it comical so there's not too hard to wear.
Yeah, like the dogs playing poker.
Try wearing a Bigfoot T-shirt in public.
I wear them all the time, brother.
You know what I'm saying? But it's not easy for anyone. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of it's odd, and it's strange to kind of do that in front of people. But if it's comical, then it kind of makes it into kind of like a funny thing, and it's easier to do it.
So
right. The typical card playing thing. You know what I'm saying? Where they're the Bigfoot and Slender Man and all them, they're all playing cards at the poker table.
Yeah.
That to me is comical, and it makes it easier to do. And I agree. I think that's a good concept for a T-shirt. But anyway,
I like the new banner though. Man, you should definitely. I haven't seen the shirts yet, but you should definitely do them with the new banner.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I need
think
to.
That banner pops. I love it, man. I really do.
Yeah. I need to send that to the people who do the production of all that, and because I've got a banner that's not like the long banner, but I have a banner that's my YouTube channel banner, but it's more square.
Right.
So it puts it like a galaxy or something, like kind of all around the whole thing, and it makes it into a more square picture. So I've got plans to do that, and I think that would make a really cool T-shirt because the guy that I hired to do that painting, his name is Chris Chin, and he is freaking awesome, man. He really does a great job at capturing what you ask him to capture.
Yeah.
With the cross in the middle and it shining forth and all that kind of stuff. Everything that I wanted, he did it. And it was like, man, dude, you're freaking awesome. And the artwork is just incredible. There's
I told you, I love that banner. I think that banner pops, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for real. And I do a lot of my own paintings. I do a lot of my own stuff. And,
I'm glad that I was able to do both of the interviews because my health up until yesterday night around 5 o'clock was pretty shaky. So I'm happy that we were able to do this because I got other friends of mine that have shows that want me to come on, but I can't commit to them because I don't know how I'm going to be, and I don't want to hang them out to dry if I got to cancel on them. You know what I mean? So
I want everybody out there in YouTube land to keep Alfred in your prayers because he's going through some stuff and he's going through chemo and all that kind of stuff. We seem to keep having a bunch of people with cancer coming on the show, so keep Alfred in your prayers, and believe me, Alfred, the prayers make a difference.
I know what they do.
There's power.
Believe me, I'm
prayer.
a big believer in power and prayer. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So and there's a lot of people that are praying people here.
Is it okay if I put your number into my Rolodex? So I know.
Oh, okay. Certainly.
Yeah. Okay. If you ever want to do
this number I just called you on the number I just called you on is my Skype number.
Okay, so
the
that's
number
the one
I called
I
you
got.
on the other day is a
Yep.
cell phone number.
Okay, that's the one I put in. That's
yeah.
the one I put. The one that came up Lexington, Kentucky.
Yeah. You
that's the one I
call me
put
on
in.
that
Yeah.
anytime. Right.
Okay. If
And
you ever want to talk about any of my Dogman experiences, or
well, we'll have
any
you
of the
back
other
on,
crazy
man.
crap you want
When
to
you
talk
go on
about,
to the other stuff, I'm not cutting you off. You went.
No. I mean, I got to get going because the kids are getting ready to come home, and I gotta get the house in shape before they get home. You know what I mean?
Day.
Absolutely.
So holler back
I'd
at
love
me,
to,
and
I'd
we'll go
love to,
into other stuff.
Let me know when you're going to post this one that we did today, and I'll promote it like I did with yesterday's one. This way, I can get it out there to as many people as I know. Who, like I said, if I can get you one more listener, that's one more listener. You know what I mean? So, let me know. Let me know ahead of time. Give me a day or so I could promote it. That's all.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's cool.
Promote your channel. Yeah.
Just holler back, and then whatever other stories you have, we'll do however many you got. And,
okay, I mean, like next time we'll do the Dogman stuff. I think the Dogman stuff,
great.
Just to change it up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like I said, there's not a ton of Dogman stuff like there is with the Bigfoot, but the stuff that's there,
even if it's 30
it's
minutes long, it's still a good show.
Yeah, because even if we only get a half hour out of that, I could always go into something else. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
yeah. All right. Well, we'll stay on the line for a second. Everybody out there in YouTube land, I thank you for listening. And if you have something you want to share here on the show, you can contact me at brentonsawin@gmail.com. You can contribute at PayPal me. The link is in the description. And then go check out my advertiser that I picked up, Stocks at Home, and I'll leave that link in the description. And I also have the online store. So there's quite a few cool things to check out in the description. So just go look at that and click on those links and look at it. And God bless you, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.